If you bought KTM stock 3 years ago, thinking you were investing in the future of motorcycles, you just watched $2 billion vanish into thin air. And you're not the only one. Right now, investors everywhere are staring at portfolios, while KTM, the company that screams ready to race on every bike they make, can't even finish their own financial race. We're talking about a brand that dominated MotoGP, conquered the Dakar Rally, and convinced millions that orange was the color of victory. But behind those racing victories, the books were bleeding red. Dealers are panicking, production lines are shutting down, and the Austrian manufacturer that once challenged Honda and Yamaha is now begging for a bailout. So if you're still holding KTM stock or thinking about buying one of their bikes, you need to hear this. Here's what the racing world doesn't want you to know about the collapse of a $3 billion empire. Like this video if you've ever considered a KTM. Subscribe for unfiltered industry analysis, and comment if you're a current owner facing these issues. But before we start, number 1, KTM's racing glory days. KTM transformed from a small Austrian manufacturer into a global powerhouse through racing dominance. Their unprecedented 18 consecutive Dakar Rally victories created an aura of invincibility that resonated with enthusiasts worldwide. The Ready to Race slogan wasn't just marketing, it was their identity. Their promise to deliver race-bred technology to everyday riders. Throughout the 2000s, KTM aggressively expanded into American markets, positioning themselves as a premium alternative to Japanese manufacturers. Their distinctive orange motorcycles commanded premium prices, justified by their racing pedigree and European engineering. Dealerships proudly displayed Dakar trophies alongside showroom models, creating a direct connection between weekend victories and Monday sales. The strategy initially worked brilliantly. Sales surged as the Orange Army of loyal customers grew, willing to pay more for bikes with racing DNA. The company leveraged this momentum to expand their street motorcycle lineup, challenging traditional players like Honda and Yamaha in segments they'd never competed in before. KTM's success story seemed unstoppable, a European manufacturer beating the Japanese at their own game while maintaining their off-road dominance. Investors poured in. Dealers clamored for more inventory. And the future looked as bright as their signature orange bodywork. Number 2. The warning signs nobody wanted to see. While KTM celebrated podium finishes and market expansion, troubling signs were emerging as early as 2021. Financial analysts began questioning KTM's debt-to-revenue ratios, noting the company was spending aggressively while carrying increasingly heavy financial burdens. These warnings were largely drowned out by the roar of racing engines and marketing hype. By late 2022, dealership parking lots told a different story than KTM's official reports. Inventory began piling up, rows of unsold motorcycles sitting in the sun while new shipments kept arriving. Dealers started complaining privately about being forced to take on more stock than they could sell, with increasingly difficult payment terms stretching their finances thin. Meanwhile, quality control issues began surfacing on production models. Owners reported electrical problems, premature component failures, and inconsistent build quality, issues completely at odds with KTM's premium pricing and racing reputation. Internet forums filled with customer complaints, creating a growing disconnect between the racing success stories and everyday rider experiences. Industry insiders noticed the alarming gap between KTM's marketing expenditures and their actual sales numbers. The company was spending like a market leader while their sales volumes couldn't justify such lavish investments. The warning signs were flashing bright orange, but few were willing to acknowledge them publicly. Number 3. The debt mountain that racing couldn't climb behind. KTM's racing success lay a financial reality that would eventually prove unsustainable. A staggering $3 billion debt load. This wasn't gradual accumulation. It was aggressive borrowing to fund simultaneous expansion across multiple fronts. Racing programs across MotoGP, Supercross, Dakar Rally, and numerous other series consumed enormous resources, with each championship requiring dedicated teams, development programs, and promotional activities. The cold financial analysis reveals a troubling truth. KTM was spending approximately $180 million annually on racing, nearly triple what competitors like Yamaha invested, while generating far less revenue. Each Dakar trophy cost upwards of $12 million, with diminishing returns on marketing value after the initial victories. Simultaneously, KTM poured hundreds of millions into expanding production facilities in Austria and India, developing electric motorcycle platforms that weren't market-ready, and opening dealerships in emerging markets without established distribution networks. This three-pronged attack on their financial reserves created perfect conditions for crisis. Unlike Honda and Yamaha, who maintained conservative financial management despite their massive racing investments, KTM operated as if success was guaranteed and expansion could continue indefinitely. When economic headwinds hit the motorcycle industry in 2024, the Japanese manufacturers had cash reserves to weather the storm. KTM had only more debt. By early 2025, the harsh reality became unavoidable. Racing trophies, for all their marketing value, couldn't pay the bills anymore. Interest payments alone exceeded operating profits, creating an unsustainable spiral that would soon reach its breaking point. Number 4. Dealers in crisis mode. The first public signs of KTM's collapse emerged at the dealer level. Throughout 2025, dealerships that had proudly carried the orange banner began closing, first in smaller markets, then in major metropolitan areas. Industry reports documented 34 KTM dealer closures across North America alone in a 6-month period. Those dealers who remained faced increasingly desperate conditions. Parts deliveries became sporadic, then virtually non-existent for certain models. Customers bringing bikes in for warranty service discovered that dealers couldn't obtain authorized components, leaving $15,000 plus motorcycles sitting unusable for months. Service departments, unable to complete repairs, faced angry customers and mounting storage problems. Interviews with former KTM dealers reveal the breakdown of trust between manufacturer and retail partners. Several report being required to make payments for inventory while delivery dates kept extending. Others describe being pushed to offer substantial discounts on aging inventory with no financial support from KTM. The disconnect between corporate messaging about record growth and dealership reality created an atmosphere of distrust throughout the network. The crisis extended beyond official dealerships to independent motorcycle shops and aftermarket suppliers. Companies that had built businesses around KTM accessories and performance parts suddenly faced uncertain futures as the motorcycles they supported disappeared from showrooms. The ripple effect touched thousands of businesses and tens of thousands of employees dependent on the KTM ecosystem. Number 5. What this means for current KTM owners. For the hundreds of thousands of current KTM owners, the company's financial crisis translates into immediate, practical problems. Resale values have plummeted faster than any other motorcycle brand in history, with late-model KTMs losing up to 40% of their value in just 6 months. Motorcycles that commanded premium prices new are now selling at fractions of their original cost. Warranty coverage has become a particularly painful subject. While KTM hasn't officially voided warranties, the practical reality is that many owners report being unable to get warranty service completed. With parts unavailable and dealers closing, the manufacturer's promise of coverage has become increasingly hollow. The parts availability crisis extends beyond warranty issues to routine maintenance. Components specific to KTM models, from oil filters to electronic control units, are becoming scarce. Owners report scouring online marketplaces and international sources just to keep their bikes running. Forums have spawned dedicated threads for tracking which components are still obtainable and which have become unobtainium. Perhaps most concerning is the collapse of the specialized service network. KTM motorcycles, particularly their newer models, require specialized diagnostic equipment and trained technicians. As dealers close and mechanics move to more stable brands, owners face diminishing options for qualified service. Some have reported traveling hundreds of miles to find shops willing and able to work on their increasingly orphaned machines. Insurance companies have also begun adjusting their policies for KTM owners, with some raising premiums due to parts availability concerns or reducing valuation assessments to reflect the collapsing resale market. What was once a premium ownership experience has transformed into a cautionary tale of depreciation and abandonment. Number 6. The bailout desperation. Behind closed doors, KTM executives have been frantically searching for financial salvation. Industry sources reveal meetings with potential investors across Europe, Asia, and North America, all ending without agreements. Several major motorcycle manufacturers conducted due diligence on potential acquisition deals. only to walk away when they discovered the full extent of KTM's debt obligations and operational challenges. The Austrian government, initially supportive of their homegrown success story, now faces difficult decisions about potential intervention. With thousands of Austrian jobs at stake, political pressure is mounting for some form of bailout. However, European Union regulations on state aid complicate any simple solution, especially when the company's problems stem from management decisions rather than market forces beyond their control. Financial analysts comparing KTM's situation to previous automotive industry bailouts note significant differences. Unlike General Motors or Chrysler, which maintained valuable manufacturing infrastructure and brand equity despite financial troubles, KTM's primary assets, their racing success and brand prestige, are rapidly eroding as the crisis continues. The most telling sign of KTM's desperation came in April 2025, when they announced dramatic cuts to their racing programs. Factory teams were withdrawn from several series mid-season, sponsorship contracts were abruptly terminated, and development programs for future race bikes were suspended indefinitely. For a brand built entirely around racing identity, these moves signaled just how dire their situation had become. Number 7. Industry impact. The domino effect. KTM's collapse isn't happening in isolation. It's sending shockwaves through the entire motorcycle industry ecosystem. Suppliers who tooled up specifically for KTM components find themselves with excess capacity and unsustainable business models. Component manufacturers who extended credit to KTM are now facing write-offs that threaten their own viability. The racing world is experiencing particular turbulence. Series that depended on KTM's participation and sponsorship dollars are scrambling to fill the void. Television contracts based on guaranteed participation from major manufacturers face renegotiation. Privateer racers, who built careers around KTM machinery, suddenly find themselves without factory support or parts supply. For competing manufacturers, KTM's troubles present both opportunity and warning. Honda, Yamaha, and other established players are already moving to capture abandoned market share and dealer networks. However, they're also taking hard looks at their own racing investments and debt structures, reconsidering the sustainable balance between competition spending and financial stability. Perhaps most significantly, KTM's collapse challenges the entire industry narrative around racing-focused business models. For decades, race on Sunday, sell on Monday, justified enormous expenditures. Now, executives across the industry are questioning whether the returns on racing investment truly justify the costs, especially in a changing marketplace increasingly focused on practicality and sustainability rather than outright performance. And finally, here's the most shocking part that nobody in the motorcycle media wants to talk about. KTM's collapse wasn't caused by bad luck or market conditions. It was completely preventable. I know some of you are thinking, this is just another manufacturer having tough times. But here's what really happened. While Honda was building reliable bikes and sustainable profits, while Yamaha was managing debt responsibly, KTM was treating their company like a MotoGP race. All throttle, no strategy. The racing success everyone celebrated was actually bleeding the company dry. Every Dakar victory cost more than it generated. Every MotoGP podium was funded by borrowed money. This is KTM we're talking about, the brand that convinced an entire generation that orange meant performance. And now owners are learning that orange might just mean caution. KTM's fall exposes the dangerous illusion of the modern luxury marketplace. Racing glory can't outrun financial reality. Their story forces us to question what we truly value in the brands we choose. Do you agree this collapse was inevitable? Which motorcycle giant will falter next? Subscribe now. The industry's transformation has only begun.